Hello, hello. Happy Friday, everybody. It is June 5th, 2026. Alex reporting for duty. It is, I don't know, about 2:30, quarter to 3 p.m. The weather outside is frightful. It's not that nice out. It's about 15 degrees Celsius. Kind of chilly compared to what we've been having. Anyway, yeah, this today is sort of a milestone for me in an odd milestoney kind of way. June 5th marks 1 year of my fireversary. That's to say that I was fired 1 year ago from my major insurance tech job. I still haven't gotten over it. I hold a bunch of resent and no, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit resentful, but I've put a lot of work into letting that go. And honestly, I'm better off for it. I'm happier. I wish them the best. I wish my boss the best, rather. Them is a big, huge company. Um, but yeah, it's overall, it was a good move. I don't hate my life. I was pretty upset, not upset, but I started there. In the first 2 years, I was a rocket, man. I was just going as hard as I could. Um, and trying to impress and primarily to move up the ladder because I was started as a dev 2, which is sort of like an intermediate position. And I shouldn't have taken that because I knew what it meant. It meant like you're a cog in the wheel. You don't have any say about architecture, infrastructure, security, or otherwise. And I knew that that would drive me nuts because the place that I worked at previously, I was there for almost 13 years. And I was there because they basically hired me as the sole developer and gave me the longest leash that you could imagine. And I delivered on the bulk of the projects. I hung myself a couple times, but I apologized. I learned and I moved on. And because it was my project that I built from the ground up, I was fully content and happy. And I just really enjoyed my life. But they were a smaller company and didn't understand the value that I was bringing, and I didn't know how to communicate it to them. Obviously, I'm when I started there, I was at 42,000 a year. By the time I stepped down or stepped away, I think I was about 84. So I doubled my income over 12 years, which is good, but not good. If you're in software engineering, even 84,000 is pretty low. Especially considering I already had about a decade of experience prior to starting there. I had worked at small web development shops and for a couple international companies, an e-commerce giant today, actually, when they were in their early stages. I worked for a company in Texas. I built their internal ERP systems. I'd done this repeatedly several times prior to starting at Cataract, but anyway, I mean, water under the bridge, man. That was a really learned place to work. I picked up everything. It really let me fuel my entrepreneurial drive because they let me explore so much. I would go to them with, I had read something about AI before LLMs were a hit. What the hell was it called? Support vector machine or something like that. And it's basically just linear algebra and predictability or what's the word I'm looking for? Probability. And you bisect the data and you kind of spam or ham type approach, right? Is it A? Is it B? And it's a classifier. That's what it's called, binary classifier. And I got to play with that like a decade or more ago, man. And like, what company is going to pay you to do that? Because they didn't really understand, maybe, is why they were letting me do it. But I'd explain to my bosses. I'd say, look, like, I want to spend a week or a couple weeks exploring this and come back to you with the results, and I'll tell you what it did. And I think we applied for SHRED, which is a Canadian STEM science research and education deductible or something that you can claim on corporate tax. And that was, I think, one of the things that I submitted was machine learning, early AI with support vector machines. But anyway, where am I going with this? Holy smokes. That was a very cool learning experience, man. I really enjoyed Cataract. There was some politics there sometimes that I didn't much care for. My boss he's a good guy, but man, he was for lack of a better word, I can only say that he was a man's man, the head honcho. And, if you didn't get his humor, or his temperament. Like he'd I don't do good environments like that, man, which is funny because like my dad and my closest friend Keith, and I mean those they're both like men's men, right? Like they can sit around a water cooler and talk about stuff that I can't. And anyway, because of that, I wasn't stepping on eggshells, but he had me nervous all the time. And he was sort of like my dad in that he'd yell easily, he'd get upset, and he never yelled at me, but I heard him yell at other people, and that had me always like, whoa, whoa, am I going to do something wrong? Am I going to get grounded? But anyway, other than that, the place was awesome to work at, man. I'll take that to heart and memory for the rest of my life. That experience of Cataract, they really, really helped project me into the future and put me where I am today. Um, and I wish him the best. And maybe even sometime in the future, I'll try and reach out to him and do business with him when I get my own business kind of up and running. I have a lot of ideas, and I understand that business inside out. So sooner the better. Anyway, yeah, and then came the big insurance company. We'll call them Big Blue. They're a large corporation. I mean, I don't know, when I started, it was over 6,000 people. They cut off a huge division, so they're maybe down to 5 right now. But they have a big office tower in Winnipeg, and they're well known. A lot of people use them, and the company itself is good, but it's a complicated, convoluted story, and I just was not a good fit there. So they didn't really give me a reason, and even HR, when I asked her, she kind of told me that it was just she couldn't really tell me, and that I should just accept the like. Anyway, I don't know how much more I should say because I signed a waiver that said I wouldn't talk about it, but I'm not mentioning them, and I'm not throwing them under the bus. They're just doing what business does, man. When you're not a cultural fit, there we go. That's what I would define it as. But anyway, yeah. So then I licked my wounds for a couple months and dove headfirst into drugs and alcohol and just about off myself, but not quite. But I could have very easily because I was really carried away there for a couple of months. Sometime in September, I said, "That's it, I'm done," and I quit everything. Stopped talking to everybody. Stopped hanging out with everybody, and haven't touched a bottle or a line of Coke or anything since. I've had about 3 drinks in 8 months. And I can count on 2 hands how many cigarettes I've had. So maybe not. I might need 4 hands. But yeah, all in all, I mean, I'm in the best place I've ever been. I'm working for a company as a contractor. They're in the rail industry, which is transport, which is right up my alley. That's what Cataract was. Super fascinating stuff. The Greenfield project. So I get to build it from scratch. And unlike the insurance place, everything was local, and I get to use the cutting edge tools. And I've been just head first into AI and cloud first or cloud centric development and in hosting environments. And I've learned just a tremendous amount. So that's good. I've learned more in 1 month, or sorry, I've learned more in 6 months of building this kind of for them and for myself than I did 5 years at working at the insurance company, where I was literally just boxed and siloed and told to do my job. And that did not resonate with me at all. So 1 year fireversary, I'm better off for it. Again, I wish everybody the best. And by chance that any of them see this, maybe that company people prefer that stability and just zombified through your day. For me, it was like holding a gun to my brain and pulling the trigger on a revolver, Russian roulette. Anyway, so yeah, Friday, here I am. Friday. There's a big event in Winnipeg in the east side of the city. It's called High Neighbor Festival. So I'm going to be checking that out probably. I reached out to a friend of mine that lives in the area and asked him if he could fix my truck because I got all these fucking problems wrong with my truck. I changed the oil on the weekend and noticed the CV shaft boots are torn. So one is really torn. The bearings might be shot. I might need new struts. The catalytic converter is throwing error codes. So anyway, this is a buddy of mine. He's fixing cars all the time. So he works at an automotive parts plant place. So he's ordered the parts. I'm going to go to his house here at about 6 tonight, and he said he can get them done in 2 hours. So I was like, what? Jesus, really? Like I watched videos on how guys did it, and I allocated about 6 hours for myself, 3 hours aside. So the fact that he said he could do it in an hour each, I was like, well, you know what? It saves me from calling on the ground. It's $50 an hour or whatever he charges. I'm in. I can't crawl. My hip is fucked. So it's a deal. Win-win for me and him, hopefully. But yeah, last but not least, I want to discuss one thing that I feel all y'all are guilty of. Not me, of course. No, I'm just kidding. I've played victim more than I can count on, more times than the hairs on my head. But there's not many left, so the joke's on you. The victim mindset, man. I fucking hate that shit. So it just, if when I hear other people do it, I just cringe because I hate it so much myself, you know. And so I was watching this thing on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or something popped up about this guy freaking out that the Democrats in New York are removing mother and father from documents and literature and replacing it with, you know, gays or whatever I can't even remember because it's so irrelevant to me. It was in one ear out the other, but it did make me go, what the fuck, really? Like, I wanted to know why that was happening, so I googled it very quickly. If you read the response from Google, it actually makes pretty reasonable sense, and I thought it was fair. They're not removing mother and father from the literature. They're changing the verbiage on legal documents so that if you're a gay couple that has a son, or a lesbian couple that has a son or a daughter, or even if you're a single father, um, or if you're an adoptive parent, you're not technically their biological mother and father. You're a parental guardian. And so they're changing the verbiage so that it's more legally grounded in reality. And I was like, I don't see anything wrong with that, man. But there's an example, man, right? Like the right wing, what they get caught up in this fucking narrative of the frogs are turning gay because the Democrats are polluting the water. And I just find those arguments kind of funny, man, and frustrating at the same time. I got into a discussion about this with a buddy of mine. He's pretty he's religious, for lack of a better word, and he's a good guy, man. I like him, but man, we do not see eye to eye on certain topics, specifically when it comes to science. He's argued he's a flat earther. I don't know if I believe him. We've had this discussion, and I've given him anecdotal and, you know, objective, quantifiable examples of how to prove the Earth is not flat. And he's kind of come around, so I think it's just a show, mostly just to be confrontational. But anyway, we've had discussions about things of that nature and LGBT and the whatever, and you know, and I've asked him, man. I was like, Jay, you know, you're a heterosexual man, right? He's like, yes. And I'm like, so am I. We both like women. And I'm like, have you ever once in the change room, have you ever just kind of glanced over and looked at that guy's dick? And he said, no, not intentionally. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't want to intentionally see it. And I'm like, exactly, myself as well. I go to the gym every fucking day, man. I see some guy's dick. And that's been the case since I was a little kid, in swimming lessons and karate and soccer and fucking you name it. I was in sports and in change rooms with men, and I've seen a lot of dick in my life, and not once in my entire fucking life have I ever looked at that dick and been like, I wonder what it tastes like. Um, and he agreed. He was in the same kind of mindset as me, and kind of we both laughed about it because it just sounds ridiculous to ask, but it was important pretext to the point that I was trying to prove that if that is the case for you and I, then we can probably assume that's the same for any red-blooded heterosexual man or woman, for that matter. That you're going to see a lot of the same-sex stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn you gay. And he agreed. And I said, so what difference does it make if kids are showing material or taught or whatever? I don't necessarily believe that you can brainwash a child into being gay. Just like frogs turning gay because of the water and fluoride or whatever. And he kind of agreed, but that's when he realized what I was setting him up for and he pushed back. But the point is, like, man, come on. We can all reasonably agree that, like, if you're wired for heterosexuality, you're probably not going to change your mind. And I speak for myself when I say this, but with 100% conviction and confidence, you could hold a gun to my head and I wouldn't suck a dick. I'd probably take the bullet. So if I'm that convicted, and other men probably would be as well, a lot of men, what sense does it make in trying to delay or stop any kind of educational material that you want to interpret as brainwash material? I don't even know if I'm making sense here, guys. Sorry for all three of you that watch. Hi, Mom. Um, but that was sort of my position with conservatives and right-leaning people that argue that they're balanced and neutral and centered. I'm like, dude, that's not centered. You're I don't know, you're not wanting to accept some element of truth and reality because it doesn't fit your narrative. On the flip side, I have to say that my sister and I were deliberating. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. We were discussing today. Um, I guess she was having a rough day, man. But my sister does support this more often than not, and my sister's very liberal, and I love her to death, and that will never change. She could be the most lesbian, gay, purpled frog, and turn gay because of fluoride in the water and the flat Earth and the fucking contrails that airplanes eject into the sky. And I would still love her because she's my sister. And that's that sidetrack. That leads me to another point with people that get so uppity about their kids being not what they expected. Don't fucking have kids then. Jesus Christ. I expect you as a parent, and I'm not a parent, but I expect all parents to love their children unconditionally, because I know I would, man. If my cat came to me and he told me he was into men, I wouldn't care. I love the animal for what he is, and that fucking mindset is so toxic and just blah. I don't know. And I mean, a large part of this has to do with educated, well learned, well spoken men like Jordan Peterson when he goes off about brainwashing. And you know what? Some of these people might have valid arguments, man. There's something to be said about the data behind the number of people with trans children in Hollywood, which is, we all know, a very progressive city. But correlation doesn't equal causation, man. It doesn't take a statistician to understand that. There's a lot of things in life that you would draw easy conclusions to, but it's intellectually lazy to do that. And Jordan Peterson is an educated man. That's one thing where I'm like, oh, come on, dude, you're a I don't know, a scholar, but he's a high pedigree in education, man. He was a what are those called? A vetted professor? No, the position you hold as a professor where they can't terminate you for any reason, and they still did, which is, there's hypocrisy on their side too for doing that. But anyway, just fucking ridiculous. And then my sister going off about Elon Musk and how capitalism is destroying the world. And I love her, but I try to explain to her, like, look, Allison, you're yelling at me or yelling to me or yelling with me on a device over a network. Where do you think those two things came from? That wasn't communism. It wasn't utilitarianism. It wasn't any ism other than capitalism that brought us these technologies. So a little bit of hypocrisy I find when people use that argument, but you know, she was frustrated. And anyway, holy smokes, guys, 18 minutes and 9:35, 6, 5, 7, 8, 10 seconds. Bam. All right. Good enough for me. I'm done. Hope you all have a great weekend. Stay safe and celebrate for me tonight with the 1 year fireversary. Bye.